Hello everyone, it's Jackie in Dunnock Studio, and today I'm going to do one of these two paintings. I've used my sketchbook from a previous video, which I'll pop in a card above. Got this idea and I thought I'd make it into a winter scene. So that's sort of the idea behind this one. And then I've got a slightly different one going on here. If you haven't seen the previous video of how to get the perspective right, I suggest you pop over and take a look at those now. Dunnock Studio is in the heart of Norfolk, UK, and here no question is a silly question. One of the questions that is not a silly question is, what colours do I use? Well, I'm going to keep this one pretty simple. Any crimson that you've got in your palette. So cadmium red is a bright orangey red, and a crimson is the sort of more towards the blue. I've got one here called Quin Magenta, which I'm going to use as a treat. You can see it's very vibrant, but you don't have to have that. Just alizarin crimson or anything in your palette that looks like a cool red will do. And the other colour we're having is ultramarine blue, which most people will have in their palettes. It's a very common colour and it's a very good colour. So get yourself a couple of puddles of those, and that is absolutely all I'm going to use. Also, go and grab your table salt. I don't know what this is. Rather than go all the way back inside to get my table salt, I'm going to use this. It's some sort of salt, I can see the crystals, so we're going to give this one a go, but any table salt will do. So we're going to have a look at a limited palette for creating atmospheric pictures. We're also going to look at textures using the salt, a little bit of negative painting, and enjoy ourselves creating a winter scene. So for this picture, I'm just going to feel my way round where I want colours. I've got really strong blue here. I haven't dampened the page down. I'm just going to see what happens. Put some vivid colour on here, and I'm just popping the pink or the crimson underneath the blue there. What I'm trying not to do is I don't want any of this colour to go into the house, so I'm painstakingly painting, that's hard to say, around the building. Now if you want to make life easy, you could mask the building out. I've chosen not to this particular time, but if you wish to do that, get your masking fluid out and mask it all out first. That's absolutely fine, go for it. The pencil marks I've used are stronger than I normally would, so that you can see them. I've got practice paper here from Bromley's Art, and that's in the description. I'm just going to pop out some of this salt, and I'm going to sprinkle that onto that sky area quite soon after I've put the paint on. I do like using salt. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people struggle to get it on at the right time, but give it a go. The trick is to leave that well alone whilst it's doing its business, and hopefully we'll get some pretty effects in the sky there. Now you could leave all of this white, but in my experience snow is never white, so I'm going to use these two hills that I've sort of built into this picture, and see if I can create a little bit of definition between the two. So you notice I'm leaving this gap here because that's where all the trees are going to go. Just going to pop this one in here, and we've got a figure in here. I thought I'd be brave and put a figure in for you, so I am going to paint round them as well. And there's possibly a little dog going to appear here, but that could be interesting to say the least. We will see what happens. Now you could leave little gaps in the snow. It's up to you how you paint the snow. Again, you could throw some salt on that if you like. what I quite like to do is once I've got the colour on, I quite like to just take it off again. Just give some textures and a little bit of sort of direction of the land. It's quite a nice one to do. I'm just pulling some of it into the path, so the path's a little bit paler than the surrounding. Now I'm going to move over to my blue, which is a lot stronger. This is quite wet at the moment, so I'm going to pop over this side and just pop in this blue here, and I will put it over here. Nice big brush. It's good if you could do that occasionally, get your big brushes out. Looks a bit harsh and horrible, doesn't it? That's fine. Get in there with your brush, soften up the edge there. Let's do the same on here. We could have dampened this first. Sometimes it works better to do that. Just moving that paint around. Now that dried really quickly there, so I've got a little bit of a mottled edge there, which I didn't really want. That's fine. You can see that this side is quite strong. I'm going to pick some of that colour up, pop it onto the other side there, put some little shady gullies and all sorts of things going on there. If you still find that what you've put on is too strong, don't forget it's going to dry paler. Just lift it off with some towel. Easy peasy to do that. Got some nice textures by doing that. That's quite fun. Maybe on that side as well. I've got a few dots from my plenty towel. Don't be afraid to play around with textures. Now for the path, I'm going to mix my blue and my crimson together. I'm just feeling my way with that. It's how much I actually need of that. Again, if you think it's too harsh, just lift it off. You can soften it down again. I'm doing all this one on dry. For the next video, I'll do it wet in wet. You can see the difference. I'm just softening off those edges there. Okay. Now this is drying still, but you can see I've left this space. So at this point, I get quite rich paint from both the blue and the crimson. So a nice deep violet. And I'm going to negatively paint around the cottage. By that I mean I'm not painting the cottage, I'm painting the area around it. Just going to pop along this bottom edge here, being quite bold with this because I want the cottage to stand out against the dark trees. This is one way of doing it. You can then bring out the shape of the house. So that's drying already, as you can probably tell. So now I'm just going to use the damp brush just to tease that up out of the bottom area. Same on this side. Now this is still wet, this sky, so there is a danger if I touch the sky that they're going to bleed together. But that's the joy of watercolours, we'll just let them do their thing. And that's my first layer done on the background there. So now I've got this figure has got to the point where the surrounding area is quite dry. So what I could do here is decide how I want these colours to work. So let's give the figure some pink legs, slightly darker leg behind, and a blue hat. Just popping this in roughly. Whoops. Now you can see what I did there was way too much water on the brush. So get a thirsty brush like that. Take it off again. A thirsty brush just means one you've squeezed out. So I've now got a little hat of some sort on there. This will probably be one of those pictures that I end up going back in with some pen afterwards. So I'm not using any new colours at all, just using the same two colours. Just to suggest a figure there. Right, let's have a go with this dog. What's going to happen? Promise not to laugh, everybody. So we've got a tail popping up there. Very excited, moving thing here. It's supposed to be running at me really fast. Not sure that worked that well, but you get the idea. So the dog's flying around the corner. Take out a little bit of that paint just to give it a little bit of variation. There we go. So I'll let that dry before I put any more detail in there. So this didn't dry brilliantly, I have to admit. That has not worked very well at all. So it just shows you it is much better to go in and dampen your paper first. So I'm just going to redo that bit and see how much of a mess of it I can make. That's the beauty of watercolour. If it doesn't work, don't worry about it. It's only a piece of paper, isn't it? Then we can go back in with some blue. Try not to touch it again once it's on, so it can just settle down. Okay. It's quite a dark, snowy winter scene here, but it's looking like it might look like snow, so I'm happy with that. So I've left some snow panels on my cottage, which I'll try and leave white. The rest of it I'm going to have as a lilac colour, leaving a few little bits of white. Remember, if you touch something wet, it will run back in like that, but that's absolutely fine. It's sort of suggesting that the building belongs to the area you're painting it into, which is quite nice. So pop in the side of the building here. We can go straight over those windows, so we can then lift out. Window there, the window there. So the front of the cottage is going to be a paler violet than the roof and the back, like so. Again, if I touch that area there, it may run into it, but we don't mind too much. Now I really should let that settle, but I'm too impatient, so I'm going straight in with my blue for the windows, which will spread, but I'm all about enjoying happy accidents, really. If it doesn't work, it's fine. Then you can lift it off, stop it going anywhere else. Sometimes it's good to do this, is put paint on and take it off again, so you actually know how to do it if something does go wrong in your picture. It's not a bad thing to practice. Just pop in slightly darker shade there. Really should let this dry, but such is the way with getting things like this done, is you try and whiz along and then wish you hadn't. As it dries, I can keep going back into places, but that's still spread. You can see it spreading, so take it off again. Bonus time, everybody, because you're so nice that you're watching. I'm going to do the second picture for you, and the only colour I'm changing is the crimson is now going to be burnt sienna. Same blue, ultramarine blue. This time I'm going to play it slightly differently. I'm going to dampen the sky, which unfortunately I've gone and put a load of blue in my brush, but it's fine. There we go. It's going to be a blue sky anyway. That doesn't matter too much. So it's damp, I'm going to let it settle. Whilst that's settling, I'm going to pop in these trees. No idea if I'm going to get back to them in time before they start to dry out too much, but I'm going to put them in. Just plain ultramarine, this is very strong, look at that, wow. And then clean brush, pick up some burnt sienna, which is my absolute favourite colour. Let that spread out across here. Because I'm holding it up like that, I'm going to get this run along the bottom. So I'm just going to use my thirsty brush to take that off. Can use it for back runs for foliage, but I don't want one there. Away it goes. It's not a bad effect for a practice paper actually. Quite impressed with that. Which seems to be working on the first picture, so let's do that again. Maybe look a little bit more on this time. Let that do its thing. You can stop salt in its tracks by adding a hairdryer to the mix, but I don't normally do that because I like to see the natural result. So just going to pop that into this area here, which is damp. If you remember, I've put that in. Mix up the colours occasionally, switching back to a warmer grey and then to a bluer grey, so you keep changing it. Burnt sienna and ultramarine blue are fabulous winter colours. If you go for a walk in the winter, you quite often see bits of soil sticking out of the ground. Even if there's snow, you could see leaves that are left behind on the hedgerows popping out, and all of those colours are generally this sort of muddy browny blue colour. So it's a fabulous way to introduce winter into your paintings. Highly recommend ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Whilst I've got that grey on my brush, I'm going to fill in the figure and use some of that colour, which is quite dark, just to set the scene with them. It's quite nice, this. Look at how dark that is. It's absolutely gorgeous. If I painted the whole figure in one colour, it really wouldn't look very good. So I'll switch into the bluer version. Something like that. Maybe a blue start to the jacket. And then let's pick up the burnt sienna and let that mix in with it as well. Pop it on this side. If you want an area to have a nice clean colour, just wash your brush well before you pop in that line. Bobble hat on. There we go. Quite happy with the figure. It's doing its thing. Get rid of that white line there, doesn't look right. There we go. So the trees are drying quite nicely. I think I will just put a little bit of salt onto them because I left them to dry a little bit. Let's see if it does anything. Probably not, but it's worth a try. So the figure is still quite damp, so if I work on that, I'm going to smudge him. So let's go away from that, work on this bit of land here. All I've done is pop some water on there. It's pulling the blue out of those trees straight away. Can you see that go? It's quite nice. We've got this area here, which I can tease out some of that colour. Even if it's dry, it will still come. And pull that into this area. Having overdone the colour a little bit here, I'm being a little bit more cautious on this side. But I've also got to watch out for this figure, because that figure is still wet. And coming back to the foreground area, just going to pick up some more burnt sienna. Now let's see how that's a little bit too strong, as you can see straight away there. Sometimes all you need is a stain of colour, and that is enough colour to sort your whole painting out. A little bit came off the figure's hat there, you can just see that. It's fine, I'm just going to let that go. Sometimes tickling the feet of a figure helps to settle them into the ground, gives them almost like a shadow area around them. That's quite nice. So this area here can have a nice splodge of that, and then pull that all the way down. Try not to take it right into there. This bit here definitely hasn't worked. I've got to take that off. So squeezing out my brush, lifting off, washing, squeezing out my brush. Eventually you get rid of most of it. Not all of it, but it doesn't matter. A little bit of blue in this area, just to give this a little bit more strength. Take some of that blue over into this side just to dull it down a little bit. Just gone for a wander there, lift that off. Okay, got to let that one carry on drying before I pop in the house and the hills. So we can go back to our other one. Still damp here and here, lots of salt patterns here. I can just show you those. Lovely salt patterns coming on there, very nice. I like salt, hopefully you will too. So I can work a little bit more on the house there. Got to remember I'm back on this first colour scheme now. So it's ultramarine blue and quinacridone magenta. So I'm just going to pull them together on my palette and make a violet, which is easy to do, and just go back in here and strengthen some of these lines under here. So I'm not trying to make an accurate drawing, so don't overthink this. Just try make the building look a little bit more realistic if you can. And sometimes that is just literally popping in some darks in the right places to suggest depth where there actually isn't any. This is just a flat piece of paper. So you have to hand it to yourselves. You're painting on a flat piece of paper and creating a world that most people can't do. I'm going to put a little bit underneath the snow line here, just to suggest we're looking up into a panel of snow there. This has worked really nicely here in the trees. I could do more work, but I don't want to lose that, so I might just do some suggestions of trees over the top there, popping through. If you can see what I'm doing, I'm just literally using the point of my brush and then side to side, squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. Just suggest trees, and ideally match them up so they touch each other. Don't have them out on their own without any trees for company. It really is. That's how you make your lights pop. You put them next to ducks. It's not always possible to get it exactly how you want it, but you get the idea. So looking around my picture, just making sure I've got rid of any pure white apart from what's on the house. But let's give it a go. We could have a bit of a shadow coming down that side, just to suggest the shapes. It's like, oh, there's still a little bit damp there from the path, that's fine. Little bobble hat on top there. It's just a suggestion of somebody walking along that path. It's not accurate by any means. Make what you will of my little dog running. I could just suggest he's actually a thing by putting a shadow underneath him. Can't really see the figure's shadow particularly because allegedly behind the very badly painted blue hill here. Beauty of watercolours is, if you don't like a part of your picture, guess what? You crop it out. So that's what I'll be doing, just cropping this bit here. See, another top tip. Okay, that one I think is probably done. I'm not going to do too much more to that. This one, how are we getting on? Salt is doing a little bit on the trees. We've got a little bit of leakage on this figure's hat again. It's interesting, it's coming out very green this time. Sometimes you get these annoying things that just won't go away. But it doesn't matter. There you go. So where can I work? I can work just about on the house. Now I've got to switch back to my colours of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Can you see how much darker and greyer that combo is compared with that combo? This gives you a much greyer, deeper colour. Going to pop the burnt sienna. This is more of a cottage. This one's going to be more of a traditional house. So it's going to have a little bit of heat leakage through the snow on the top, which you do see on houses, don't you? And then we've got a chimney here. Pop that in. So just a nice grey mix, bringing that down here. Don't want it too dark, so I'm just softening that edge and taking it away with water in the brush. That's it, nothing else. So a nice wintry grey there, that's nice, I like that. Then we'll switch, we've got orange on the roof, so let's pick up the blue. For the front of the house. Again, don't want to overdo it. Just pop some of this blue on, wash it, and then clean water, drag it around a little bit. Because the house itself, the walls, sorry, wouldn't have snow on them because they're, unless you had a real blizzard, in which case you might have some snow on them. Got a bit of a puddle happening here, so I'm just going to thirsty brush that off. That's better. And because that's quite stark, I'm also going to drop in some blue into it to let it mingle on there. Look at that lovely grey, look how lovely that is. And along here, we might have a little gutter going down here with a turn on the corner of the house. Don't forget your gutters. A few lines to suggest windows and doors. If you've got your perspective lines right, this should look pretty correct. If you haven't, this is when you notice it's wrong. I'm just going to soften those a little bit. A little bit of blue down along this side of the roof. Just deciding whether I can get away with popping a wash on that back hill there. Got blue and blue, so the wash in the middle is going to be my burnt sienna colour. But I don't want it to be too strong. So let's pick up some of the burnt sienna I had earlier. Pop it on there. And then damp brush, take it away. So the hard edge is on the hilltop, the soft edge is where I'm softening it away from there. Down into the trees, that works okay. Over here we've got orange and we've got blue, so we can choose which one to put in between those. So we could put, let's put a blue hill in, because the trees are quite grey, aren't they? So a little bit of a blue in here. Brave and go up right close to the house there. No need to go close to the trees, just wash it down. So there, let's just put in some dark for the windows, which remember is ultramarine and burnt sienna together. You get that nice darkish grey. And just pop in some dark areas in the window. Don't get hung up on where it should be dark, where it isn't dark. Just pop dark in. I've got the door with two little windows on. I'm going to stop that and just have one dark doorway. It looks a bit more natural. And then using that dark chimney in. Chimney could do with a little depth at the bottom there. Easy Christmas trees these are. This is not technically dry over here. I'm just going for it. Now you can see that this white roof is against a pale background. So I'm going to do again what I did before and pull up a dark background around the back of the house using the guise of trees. These are pretend trees that are doing a job, negatively painting around this house. So it's already popped that roof out a little bit better, hasn't it? We could even darken this side as well and have some of them cross the horizon. Crossing the hills, should I say, not necessarily the eye level. The horizon we can all assume is the edge of something, the edge of a hill, the edge of a cliff. We call it the horizon. That's what we're used to calling things, but it's not the same as the eye level of the viewer in the picture. Just try and remember that. That will help you. There we go. I'm in danger of overdoing it a little bit. Let's put in some little dark marks along just there and there, and down here I think. Just some scrubby stuff. We don't know what it is. We're not worrying about it. Just some dark marks. going off into the distance. Dibs and dabs, dots and splots. And just strengthen this tree area here. It's right next to the house area. So let's just put in some very short trees here. But you get the idea, that's the pale side of the house, so now the trees look like they're against something that's showing them off. And again, last little bits and pieces, popping in under this snow line here where you'd expect there to be a shadow. Just need that to be a little bit. I always find you just get into the really important bits that you just need that last little bit paint for, and then you haven't got any. And that's too much. So just pop in some dark under that edge there. Not so much on that edge, because that's what we're looking down at. But this edge under here is probably a little bit too much. Just take some of it out. And again, just this line. Reiterate this line around the eaves, which would be darker. It's a little bit overworked there, as you can see. Not quite as happy with this one on the house, but it's nothing that a bit of pen work won't sort out later, and that's why I love pens. Pens can give you so much adjustment and refining at the end of a painting if you want to use them. So we did put a soft wash into here, but it's sort of disappeared. So bravely we go forward. Bravely, she says, hoping it doesn't wreck it. And we just pop in. Whoop, that's strong, isn't it? See, too much. Don't panic, just wash it away. This little fella here is pretty dry now. Just go right over that path. Leave a few gaps of white there, here and there, and then you can lift out your path with a thirsty brush. I'm just using a pointed brush. An angled brush is good. A nylon brush, it lifts a bit more paint out, but watch your paper, it doesn't suddenly explode. That'll do. Yep, there we go. Just going to give this figure, it's crying out for a shadow that's going this way. There we go. Could do loads more work on those. It's just a quick exercise to show you when you draw your perspective in and then paint a picture on top. It does work. These are just really quick sketches for you to play with. I hope they help. So I've just got to wait for the salt to dry properly, and then brush that off, and there'll be a finished piece, which I'll show you at the end. So welcome back, everything's dry. I've got some lovely effects in the sky here with the salt. Not quite so good on this side, but that's the magic of watercolour. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This cottage is working as a picture much nicer than this house is. I think I'd probably put too much colour into that roof. It looks a little bit bright and obvious. The figure here I really like. It's like almost like a child who's looking to wander back to their home, and I really like the trees around here. This one, the wash across here didn't really work to start with, but as soon as I crop that off, so if I just pop myself that there, then I've got a completely different picture, which I really like. But if I take this one off, I've lost that lovely figure, so I do like him. He's staying in. So have a little play with your perspective sketches and paint them and have some fun with them. And all I've used is a Micron 0.03 pen, but any waterproof, fade-proof pen to embellish will finish off your paintings. And if you wish to do that, you don't have to do that. I just quite like to do that. I have got a video on embellishing your imperfect paintings, and I'll pop a link up for that as well. And in the meantime, do have a go at painting some Christmas cottages, some snow scenes. Try your two-colour palettes and see how you get on. It'd be really great to hear what you think of just using two colours. If you pop it in the comments, that would be fabulous. And like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more, I'd love to see you back here at Dunnock Studio. Thanks very much for watching, and happy painting. Take care and see you soon. Bye for now.